Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to this episode of Lifestyle Pirates with me, Big J, and him, Adriano.
G'day.
This morning we are welcomed by Robert Siemsen.
Hello.
Have I pronounced that okay?
Yeah, Siemsen, yep.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Mate, it is a pleasure to finally have you here. We've been going back on email, back and forth for probably 6 months.
Yeah, probably, at least 6 months.
And you've come all the way from Dubbo.
Yep, I have.
Not for today, you've come for other events. You know, we're not that special.
Yeah.
But you are high on the guest list at the moment, mate, because you bought a nice 6-pack of beer. So
my pleasure.
One of my favourites already.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can give this a nudge. But mate, I really appreciate you reaching out to us. Coming on the podcast. I've followed you on Instagram. I know Adrian has been frothing, looking at some of the pictures, so we will get into what you do for business-wise. But first of all, mate, congratulations. You've just passed 12 months in your business.
Yeah, thank you.
And you've got a 5-month-old daughter called Adelaide.
Yeah, I have. There's lots going on. There is a lot going on. Yeah, I have no idea. Being a father, there's lots of new things to learn there. And with business, just as much to learn. Yeah, really enjoying it all, but just... Whew.
There's a lot to take in now.
Yeah.
Just enjoy these next few beers, all right?
Thank you.
We've got some time to just chew the fat, relax, and have a good time.
Yeah,
You're quite a young man. You've been 15 years in the automotive industry. You actually started when you were 15. And what I love about this conversation, I'm not an expert in what you do. So you focus your time on classical cars, restoration, the creation of car bodies, and then a coach builder, which coach building is not building coaches, by the way, guys. We're going to find out what it is.
It was.
Yeah.
There you go. So you told you, not an expert here.
Yeah.
But mate,
I can go right back if you want.
this is exactly why you're here.
Yeah, it would be a good starting point. Coaches, human-drawn coaches, right back to the Mesopotamians. It's been a partner for humans. Like the coach has evolved with us, right? So your Roman chariots, and then there was the horse-drawn carriages, and you had the Daimlers and the Carl Benzes invent the combustion engine. I don't know the year, but I think it's 1888 or something like that, right at the turn of the century. And at that point, coach builders were really thrust into this new engineering aspect of the motor car or the horseless carriage when it first happened. And the coach builders, because they had been around for so long, they were really entrenched in tradition, and they really didn't like this crudeness of the engineering aspect, because this is a brand new thing. But those first motor car manufacturers, so Bentley, Rolls-Royce, it was a two-party system where an owner, for them to buy a motor car, they'd have to approach Rolls-Royce and buy an engine sitting on a chassis, and then they would send it to a coach builder. And back in the pre-war days, England they were fantastic. They were fantastic workmanship there. It was really, 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 really great. Really high quality, because they were so proud of what they did. And it had that tradition put in place, and they really did fantastic work. And it really just evolved from there to kind of what you see driving down the street. But there is a direct link right back. Yeah.
So just to confirm, if I wanted a car back in these days where you were just referring to, I would go and buy an engine.
Yeah, and a chassis.
And then I'd go and buy a chassis separately.
No. The engine and chassis.
So a complete unit with the steering wheel and the seat.
And then they'll build the coach around.
And then they would build the timber body around the motor car. So the motor car was just a chassis and an engine. That was Rolls-Royce. Yeah. Then you would go to Barker or Gurney Nutting or Park Ward or Moliners. There was hundreds of them.
So what did the typical coach builder look like back then? Was it a big sort of establishment, a massive garage, massive warehouse? What was it like?
Yeah, I went. I was
saying that you were there, but
Well, I wasn't there. I wasn't there in the 1920s. Yeah. But I did go to Tickford in Newport Pagnell, And the Tickford building is like 3 or 4 stories, and they operated it on pulleys and trapdoors, and it's all like timber floors. So I suppose, as the car progressed, they would just like lower it down the levels and eventually would just roll out the lot. But yeah, I have a report online that people can check out with all the details that I've referenced from books I've read with the numbers that they were pushing out by hand. But England, especially before the war, there was plenty of men to do the work, and it was really ramped up, Yeah,
do you feel like maybe you feel like you are born in the wrong sort of era? Would you have liked to have been back then, or do you like doing what you do now?
No, I think that they did it pretty tough back then. Yeah. It's just it's good to be alive now.
Yeah.
I think that I think those boys would look at what I do and just think, come on, mate,
I can knock that up in 20 minutes.
Yeah, and they did. Yeah, exactly, man. That was so quick. And they had to put...
But they already had the bucks done. Like everything was done. It was just wax steel on it to make it.
That's right.
A lot of the time you're making all of that for one car.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. They had bucks and tooling all there ready to go. So yeah, it was more of an assembly line in that regard. Yeah, for sure. It wasn't. They did bespoke work, but not. Yeah, they weren't making things. They were making things from scratch, but they had the patents. They had engineers behind them and draftsmen to kind of here you go for it. And it wasn't like me trying to copy something where a lot of time to replicate a part or a panel. A lot of time goes into getting it correct. Yeah, whereas they were just like, this will do.
Yeah.
This is good. This looks good. Yeah. See you later. They're not trying to copy something. No. So that draws the time out for sure.
Do you reckon they had that saying, she'll be right, in the 1920s?
100%. That's where it comes from.
Okay, just checking. Checking.
Mate, didn't you know?
So mate, whoa. I know you've been excited for this one.
No,
can I just get my limited knowledge out of the way?
Get it out.
After you go on.
No, go for it.
I'm going to have a sip of beer. You do you.
All right, fine.
Yeah. We can talk about the Italian coach builders for a bit if you want.
No, they're not the best, are they? No, they're the best. What are you talking about? Pininfarina, Giugiaro, Zagato. I know you're a big fan of Zagato. I've seen some Zagato clips that you did on an Aston.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, DB4 GT Zagato. Yeah.
We'll get into that. But coach built, mate, we are definitely getting into that.
So I might just go for a walk.
Yeah.
Yes. So coach building obviously was very popular back in the day, but it's not as popular now. And I think it's starting to have a bit of a resurgence. But say 15 years ago, I don't think it was very popular at all. How did you find someone to be able to teach you? So I know you did work with Mark Nugent.
Yeah.
In Dubbo as well. So that means it must be a very crowded coach building area in Dubbo at the moment.
Yeah, well, Dubbo, it lends itself so well to the trade. I mean, I was, mentioning earlier that the overheads in Dubbo are extremely, they're nothing like what it's in Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a niche area, but there are lots of guys in Australia doing really, really, really nice work. There is a fellow up in Brisbane. I forget his first name, but he goes on the.
Don't need to plug in. Plug yourself.
Yeah, but yeah, there are plenty of guys doing really good work, which it does help. Guys will have previously done a car, so they might have patents. And there's a good little network there. Yeah, they're not all friendly, but it could grow. It could definitely grow bigger. But the thing is, you have to put the time in to really learn and know what you're doing. You can't. It's not something that you can just. I want to do that and have a go. I mean, you could if you're very talented, but I couldn't do it. Yeah. It's taking me 15 years to really. Do it well.
Being around classic cars a lot, it's definitely an art. It's a skill that needs, like an artisan. It's very artisan. So yeah, taking 15 years to do it, I don't think that's a long time at all. Like,
no, it's not. It's not.
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So how did that learning look like? getting into coach building? Because it's not like you can just go up to your local Ford dealership and they do coach building there. It's very niche.
Yeah, well, I was really lucky. I did my apprenticeship in Alexandria, a place called Perfect Auto Body.
Yeah.
On Reardon Street. It's a Mercedes-Benz shop.
I know the one.
But so yeah, I did my apprenticeship there, and there were some great tradesmen there. So it put me in good stead. And I kind of got a tap on the shoulder from a bloke there, Russell, who was a British guy, and he said if you, because I was always like, oh, how do you do this, and how do you do this properly, and he's just like, mate, if you really want to learn how to build cars, like you gotta get out of here.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, because it was good. We everything was file finished and lead wiped, and everything was done on jigs, and we rebuilt some really nice cars, but that's where it ended.
Yeah.
So from there, I just bounced around a lot. There was magazines and things, but there was no Facebook back then. I think Facebook was around, but not like it is now. And there was no Instagram. So it was really just, I bounced around Sydney a lot. And then I heard word that there was a car restoration guy down in Tasmania, a Swiss guy, George Shorter. So I went down and worked with him for a year.
How did that conversation go? Did you just ring him up?
No, well, my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but we went down to Tassie on holidays, and it was like, oh yeah, this is a really nice place. And so we moved down there, and I walked into George's shop and said, can you give me a job? And he did, and he saw my enthusiasm. He was like, yeah, okay, all right, you can work for me. And
was that FOC or did he pay you?
No, he paid me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been paid.
This isn't the 20s, bro.
Yeah.
Just asking.
Yeah. Always managed to get paid, luckily.
Mate, result.
Yeah. It is. I was always happy. I've never made like crazy good money, but I've never. It's not really what has driven me. I think if money is what drives you in this, like you're in the wrong game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you moved down to Tasmania?
Moved down to Tasmania, spent a year down there, and again, just got that itchy feet and thought, got to kind of get back to the mainland. Tassie's a beautiful place, but it's quiet, and George was a bit disappointed, but I found my way into a workshop out in Windsor, a bloke by the name of Jeff McCarter, but there was two really great coach builders that worked there. One guy used to work for Mark, Stuart Stendhal, and Fidel Alfaro, which Fidel is very well known in the industry. Worked for Classic Autocraft, for Ian Cummings. Worked there for nearly 4 years and really put the time in there with Fidel. And he really got me up to speed. I have a lot to thank for that man.
Yeah.
Fantastic. One of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life. Yeah. Really friendly, just
and good at his craft,
and actively showed me the right way to do things. Invaluable. And Mark Nugent did his apprenticeship with Fidel at Concourse, and Fidel sort of took me up to Dubbo with Jeff, and I got to know Mark, and I was just like, well, this is where I got to be, and kind of pestered him for years trying to take me on, and eventually he caved.
Persistence pays off.
Yeah, it does. It does for sure. Just kept on pestering him, and eventually put me on, and I moved up there and worked for Mark for 4 years before I went to England, and then again more experience there. If you want to get into that, but I could rattle on all day.
You breezed over something. So at Mark Nugent, didn't you get the Winston Churchill Fellowship Award?
Yeah, I Nugent is a fellowship recipient himself, so he sort of said you should go for this, which I did, and luckily was awarded the fellowship, which is available to everybody. Like every guest on your podcast would be an amazing person to apply, and everyone should check it out. Winston Churchill Trust in Australia. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get that and knew exactly what I wanted to do before I even applied. Wanted to go to the Midlands of England and learn from the workshops there that have been there for 40 years. RS panels, body lines, Shapecraft. Went to all of them. So it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you in the UK for?
3 months. Yeah, just working in the Midlands. We got back in the end of November, which is lucky because I think I can kind of remember around Christmas time they were talking about this virus, this novel virus that they had in Wuhan.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was offered a job in England, and the aim was to go back, but by February that dream was over completely.
Because in the Midlands, you've got some of those names you mentioned, but also Jaguar. Peugeot's still up there. Their factories there, aren't they?
Yeah, Jaguar's there. Jaguar have a classic centre. Aston Martin have a heritage centre, which there's an Australian working there, Dan Kostakakis. He gave me a tour of the workshop.
How was that?
Yeah, it's amazing shop, Aston's, but the credit really goes to, like, they sub out all the work. They don't actually they do the final assembly and the paintwork at Newport Pagnell, but they don't do the bodywork. It's all done by other shops. Same with Jaguar, Crossway and Gardner, RS Panels do all the Jaguar work.
So would they send, say, like one of the DB4s or something like that, like a super Milano Touring body? Would they send that back to Milano Touring, or would they get a coach builder to do that?
No, they the DB4. When I was there, they were doing the DB4 Zagato recreations. I haven't signed anything, so I can talk about it. But
Sweet.
Yeah, it's the worst kept secret in England. But I followed these panels around, so the body panels were pressed somewhere in the north of England. I can't remember the town.
Oh, so they're remake presses.
Yeah, they remade, or someone had the dies.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they pressed out for the bodies. They somehow found presses or made them, got them pressed, had great jigs made, which I have photographs of. I can't put them online or anything until 5 years. There's 5 years until I can. But so the press panels are made over the top, and then gassed in. And then the bucks come apart from the inside, and then you have a perfect front shroud and a rear shroud, and then they went off. Yeah, they were scattered around England. Every kind of shop I went to, there was one there. They were getting painted or they were getting made. Yeah, but beautiful cars at the end. And then they went to there was that historic assembly line where they kind of finished off and took a photo and then wheeled it into the showroom, and I think they were £1 million from memory. Yeah, a lot of money.
Did you make it down south to McLaren in Weybridge or Brooklands in Weybridge?
No, I went to Brooklands because I worked with a guy in Byfleet, which is just behind the track. Yep. Carl Neville, who worked at AC Cars. But I didn't really spend much time there. Most of my time was in the Midlands. I briefly went down to around Southampton for a little bit, but mainly I was around Northampton and Newport Pagnell. So
was this travel on the back of winning this award? Was this like a byproduct of you won the award, that's part of it? Or was this like a self?
Yeah, so the Winston Churchill Trust will award you funding to go and do whatever project you want to do. And, it's a whole different field of people doing different things, policemen, teachers, scientists, all different types of people. So that was just my project, which you can find my findings in the report online, which I've gone to a lot of effort to put some photographs up on there and just write about my, sort of subjective experience.
What was your favourite bit of the UK? Because I mean, most Aussies.
Do you want to really know what my favourite part of the UK?
Well, most Aussies go to the UK to engage Europe, do the Pamplona Bull Run, do London.
Yeah, no,
hit Europe in a big way. You've
gone working for Kentucky.
Maybe I should do. You've gone there and sampled probably things that people would never ever see. And obviously that's your area of passion, but
Yeah.
what was your favourite bit?
My favourite part of England was the pubs,
The pubs?
for sure.
It's one of the things I miss. Yeah.
They are so good.
What's wrong with our pubs?
They're
You don't really have any.
It's
right.
crazy. Like my wife and I went into it. My wife was blown away because she's not the biggest fan of pubs, especially the ones that you got the tacky carpet and the TAB and
tacky carpet.
But there, you got your oak bar and just all the
Warm beer, dog by the fire.
Yeah, always a
chucking
dog.
down the rain outside.
Yeah, always a dog. The
But
gravel,
you get emotional.
the gravel driveway it was amazing. I couldn't stay out of them. I loved it. I really
I had a
did
feeling you
love
were
it.
going to say that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dubbo suits me well because it's a drinking town. Yeah. But in England, couldn't stay out of the pubs, and the Ashes were on when I was there, so that even made it even more enjoyable.
Who won that?
Australia.
It would have made it better, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Well, we have to put up with Poms here, so I thought, well, you're gonna have to put up with me.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
Did you go to Goodwood? Were you at the
Yeah,
right
I
time of
did.
year we went to Goodwood?
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I teed it up. I went to Goodwood, which incredible.
Mate,
Like,
that
we have to
would've
do
been
something like that
amazing.
here.
Even he's got envy there. That's on your bucket list, Dave. Goodwood.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, doing something like Goodwood, I've been speaking to quite a few people in the automotive industry about trying to do something like that.
Yeah, it's got to happen. We're primed for it. Australia has so much racing history that is just there's more of it in the UK about Curie Australia, the racetracks that we had here. That they've all been, most of them have been torn down, but we still have Phillip Island and Mount Panorama. But yeah, it's something that Australia should really be proud of, mate.
Yeah.
Like we really went up against the world and we did well, Jack Brabham, all that whole era, we were right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
So can I ask, because most people, when they're 15 years old,
Right. Yeah.
they have pictures of cars on their wall,
Yeah.
Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and they might go off on a different way, maybe the way that you've gone off. You've gone off in the restoration, the creation, and this coach building. Why?
I don't know.
You were waiting for some philosophical. I don't know.
No, it's just
I have
just
no
intriguing.
idea. It's just something that's stuck. I did work experience at a auto electrician. My dad was a huge fan of racing, so he somehow I was just like, well, I have to work with cars.
Yeah.
I just have to, and I definitely wasn't a great student at school. So when I went to Perfects, the excitement of getting on a train and going to the city was attractive, and I really, really liked working with the lads there. Got on with them well, and just thought, yeah, well, this is great, and I enjoyed it. And I wasn't very good at the start, but
Man, no one
just
is.
kind of chipped away at it, and always, just always enjoyed doing it, especially at the end. The end result is really rewarding. It really is. There's really something to be said about working on a car for sometimes like 3 or 4 years, and then even when you start seeing something, you just have a cup of tea and just like, yeah, this is really it really makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Quite seductive.
Yeah, it's I don't know how to explain it. It's just a really satisfying feeling that you don't get every day, but every so often, like I said, when you have, especially when something's finished and about to roll out of the door, glancing at it in the corner of your eye, it's a really, really good feeling. And I know mechanics have told me when you have, all these different components spread out on a tool bench, and they all come together and you create this beautiful sounding, combustion engine. There's obviously something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, of course.
I imagine it's incredibly satisfying, which is kind of what keeps guys doing it.
Yeah, it's a sense of achievement.
Yeah.
You've completed something. You've turned an inanimate object into something that's got a soul. It's got there's something about it.
Yeah, there is something. There's something. spiritual. I don't know. Like, yeah, but it's a good feeling. That's what's kept me in it for sure. Yeah. And the ability, like panel beating, it was good when I was younger because I could just get up and move. I could, I went up to Darwin for a while and moved around Australia a fair bit. And it was always a great way to make money. You didn't have to go, picking fruit or anything like that. So that was good. Those days are behind me now that I've got family and stuff. So. I can't. My boss wouldn't be happy.
And when you say your boss, you mean your wife?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Mate, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
So let's go back to England.
Sure.
What's the differences you've found with, I suppose, two things? One, the trade over there, and two, the tradesmen or tradespeople over there. Like, is there a difference in the way they approach a job, their level of expertise? Tell us a bit about all of that.
The main difference between Australia and the UK is that the UK are steeped in the history of auto manufacturing.
Yeah,
it was really big in Coventry, and the shops that I went to, there's guys who are still around who used to work for Mulliner Park Ward where they did the Rolls bodies, and there's guys that did their apprenticeship with Aston Martin in the David Brown era, or apprentice to guys that were working in the David Brown era. So they've got this bloodline, and they've just got the amount of work that they have, the industry there. They've been able to keep the skills very well intact because it hasn't. You have a shop like RS Panels where the owner and founder Bob Smith, he finished up at Abbey Panels, which was a prominent coach builder. They built, I'm pretty sure Abbey Panels did the C types, the D types, the D type, the bodies.
Beautiful bodies.
Yeah. And so when Abbey Panels finished up, Bob created, I think it was even maybe before Abbey Panels, but Bob created this this business, which is a real old school coach building workshop. Bob has a timber shop. He's got old fashioned timber bucks of a GTO Ferrari. Nice. All these old cars that he was restoring in the 70s and 80s. He took patterns off. He's got patterns off the original lightweight E-types. He's got everything.
Oh, nice.
Everything. He's got a huge industrial unit just with patterns. And I should say I never met Bob, but I spent time with his son James. But that shop is extraordinary. Extraordinary.
And there's just nothing like that here, is there?
There's nothing like that here.
How far away are we?
We don't even come close. Well, Australia never had companies like Rolls-Royce
of course.
and Bentley, and we've never had continental Europe on our doorstep. We had an auto manufacturing industry in Melbourne, which came in where it was ramped up for mass production and went down. I mean, they were making them by hand there, but robots and jigs and tooling. Yeah. There was no hand shaping cars here. There may have been a little bit, but not on the scale of England. Guys would have just wrapped that up and moved on. So, I mean, Australia has moved on from that era completely, I think now, which is a shame. But somehow in England, it's just survived. Yeah,
I suppose the market over there is a lot bigger, as you said. Europe on the doorstep.
It's huge, and America's not that far away either. And it's with these cars becoming so valuable, having like Alan Pointer has the original DB6 jigs that Aston threw out. So Aston, David Brown.
It's not uncommon to hear that.
Yeah. He saved them from a bonfire. Yeah. He said, "Well, I'll take them if you're gonna get rid of them." So he's got the original tooling there.
Can I ask a layman question? What's a jig?
Well, I'm talking about a buck. So Aston Martin.
Can I ask another question? What's a buck?
so
Hey, we have a global audience here.
Yeah.
I know you two car enthusiasts are getting whipped
No, it's a
up.
great question. Great question.
A buck. Do you want to answer it? I'm doing.
What
a
the
lot
buck are you
of
talking about, jigs?
Well, for me, what a buck is, so say if you've got to form a guard, right, it has certain contours, right? So say it goes over the wheel like that, right? You'd have for people, I've got to explain this for people that are just listening. So you've got a contour of a body, right? And then
This may be the piece where you turn the YouTube video on.
You make the wooden sort of form underneath it, so you can roll the guard over it, so you can match the contour, and then you can repeat that as well.
Say again?
You can.
You're good.
Did you
Nearly
get
got
it,
him. No, I did get it. I get it. So that's a buck, and then what's a jig?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Really.
Same meat, different gravy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like little hammer forms and things. I don't really call it buck. I just call it a jig, but it's just nomenclature. It's just.
Well, late models in jigs as well. If you want to pull a chassis to a certain sort of dimension, you'll use a jig because you hold one side, pull the chassis the other way, so you can get it out to the other point. Then jig that if you have to weld as well. So you have to do a lot of alloy welding. You'd jig the thing up because you don't want it to move because alloy moves so much when you're welding. Because when you put heat through it, it just like goes the bend. So you jig it so it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Any follow-up questions, send them in on a postcard.
Yeah. So Aston Martin, when they were building DB4s, DB5s, DB6s, they had bucks. So they would build the bodies over the bucks, and then you'd have a body, and then the panel beater would put the next body on the jig, make sure hammer it all, blah blah blah, get it all fitting. And once the production ceased up with DB6s, they had no need for the tooling. Like no one had the foresight of what the classic car was going to become. So Alan Pointer was like, well, if you're going to throw them out, I'll just take them. And he's got them all there. He's got them all in his workshop. And I think I was trying to say, blokes, wherever you are in the world, if you had an original DB6 or you wanted a recreation made, I mean, what better place? Like, and Paul Temple, all the guys that works for Aston Martin. You know, they're not licensed Aston Martin car maker, but they're the tradesmen that were there.
That built it.
That built the cars. That's right. Yeah. So, a lot of people find that very attractive. And they do fantastic work on Ferraris too. DK Engineering use them for pretty much all their bodies. Just brilliant craftsmen. Yeah, really fantastic to see. Paul Temple, because they've made so many DB6 bodies, I think Paul made up a rear wing in, less than a minute.
Fuck.
Yeah, knew exactly how much shape to put on, put it through the rollers, had it basically sitting on the jig, on the buck, put it through the wheel, one more time, and had it bang right
sitting on there perfectly.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah. He said to me, he was a really funny man. He said to me, do you think you could do that rear end, the rear wing? I was like, yeah, I can do that. He's like, I'll give you a hand. I was like, no, I can do it by myself. And he's like, well, mate, if you can do that by yourself. Yeah. I couldn't do it.
So did you come back from the UK just, I guess, bursting with ideas, enthusiasm, kind of vigor?
Yeah.
Did it give you an idea of what good looked like, or?
Yeah, I was when I came back, I was just bursting at the seams to get into it, and I was offered a job in England, and I thought that was the best thing for me to do, to go back and really spend maybe a year or two there. But with the pandemic, the decision was answered for us. So I decided to start the business, which was a big leap. Although I was really passionate about the trade, it was a big decision to kind of go for that. But I'm really glad I did it. I wouldn't change anything. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing, and the business is taking off. I'm starting to collect some jigs and some bucks, and kind of just replicate what I saw in England.
Yep.
And it's funny, when I was working in Northampton, Luke Chapman's shop, was right back on the canal, and there were some rats in the workshop. Being in Dubbo, like my workshop's full of mice, so I've nailed the authenticity right down to the vermin.
And so, what is your business then? So, what is it that you're doing?
It's traditional coach work, contoured sheet metal. So a recreation. I'm doing recreations of cars. We're trying to get some C-type bodies out the door.
Nice.
There's a lot of loops and things that I have to kind of jump through to get that going. But that's slowly happening. So we've got that side, but also like classic car restoration. I can't live without it. It's bread and butter. Like I need to the money in the recreation side. Like it'll be good once it's all ramped up, but yeah, classic car restoration is really what's pushing me forward, monetizing it all and helping me buy machinery, which I need. So
is the team just you at the moment?
It's just me. Yeah, just me. I have a lot of help from local guys, other businesses that do like machining, things like that.
Yeah, your network would have to be quite strong.
Yeah. Nugent helps me out a lot. I don't have a big folder, so if I need to fold something, I'll just go down to him and fold that up. So yeah, it's going well, but yeah, plenty to learn.
What sort of bodies do you find yourself restoring? Mostly all English, or do you do Italian bodies?
Yeah, I have.
You would have to be doing Italian bodies, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, there's mainly what I have are like Austin Healy work has for some reason just come to me. So that's been good, but I do have the 2600 Spider sitting waiting to get dipped and waiting to start, which will be a great project.
Yeah. So are the 3000 Healys?
There is a 3000 coming in.
Yeah.
But I have a Healy 100 in there.
Yeah.
And I do 100S nose panels for a bloke down in Ballarat. So I've done a few of them for him.
Yeah.
Which is just bits and bobs. Like I haven't pigeonholed myself into like a specific type of card. Like I'm hoping that will just happen organically.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I love Aston Martins, but just don't know how many there are.
So what's your favorite body to work on? Like
an aluminium body.
Yeah. But what about maker? So there's like Superleggera, Milano Touring, Frua, Giugiaro, Pininfarina.
Yeah. Are you talking about Casaria Touring?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Milan, yeah. So the 2600 Spider is a Casaria Touring body.
Carrozzeria.
Carrozzeria, yeah. Carrozzeria, yeah. Yeah.
Mate, you got to do it with the accent. Come on.
Pap.
Go on, do it with the accent. No one else is here. Come on.
Can you give me again?
Carrozzeria.
Carrozzeria.
Yeah, mate.
Grazie.
We're just teaching them.
But look, I don't.
John's fluent in Italian as well, by the way.
I don't really have a favorite type of body.
Yeah.
An aluminium body is great. Steel's a lot harder, a lot more mess. But
So you prefer working with alloy?
I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone does. It's softer, easier to manipulate. It's easier to weld once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot softer. Steel's a lot harder to move. So have to be an aluminium body.
So you're obviously doing a craft that is sort of older, but how much has technology changed the industry, and do you use it a lot in your industry? So if you were building a body, would you use TIG welding?
Not TIG welding has its uses. I mean, God, the uses are endless. But to weld an aluminium body, TIG is not one of them. Guys will use TIG, but for me, just gassing it in is so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. There's no grinding. If you don't snook yourself, you can throw it through the wheeling machine and crush your weld.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the quickest way. TIG welding is helpful when you need to like fill in some space, and you can put some aluminium in there. I know that sounds really odd, but I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, you can't gas weld frames and things. You need a TIG.
Yeah, of course.
But for an open body, welding a wing on, it's gas is the way to go. But there's a whole debate out there about that. I wouldn't argue with a TIG welder guy. It's just like, oh, well, if it works for you, it works for you.
So I was asking.
Yeah.
John's a TIG welder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that a car can take 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Oh, could take longer. It's if you have bucks and jigs and tooling and patterns and all the information there, obviously it streamlines the whole job very well.
It's not only that; it's also the income of the person.
Yeah, that's true. How determined they are to finish the project.
You know, like when you're talking about thousands of hours or billable hours, you can't just do that in one hit and then give the person an invoice. Well, not to all people. Some people prefer that, but some people just want it quickly and they're like, "Oh, prepared to pay whatever it is until you get it finished." But some of those people are like, "All right, you've done a bit. You've rolled the guard. All right, the guard's finished. Here you go. Here's a bill." It's like, "Oh shit. All right, now I might have to wait a bit until we do the other guard, or I might have to wait a bit until I do something else." So they'll sort of back off a little bit. So that's why a restoration or a rebody can take from a certain amount blow out to years, man.
Yeah.
So does that talk to some of the things we spoke about earlier on about labour costs? Again, benefit of being in Dubbo where...
Yes, Dubbo definitely keeps the hourly rate down. Like my hourly rate is $55 an hour, which, I tell people here in Sydney and they choke and they just like, "Robert, this is way too low."
Yeah.
But when the hours get up, I'm not working on a job for 6 hours. I'm working on it for hundreds of hours. Obviously I go as quickly as I can without taking any shortcuts and getting, good quality work out the door. But it does take time. It really does. And a lot of the time you don't know, like I try and be as transparent as I can with owners, but sometimes things prop up, things prop up and it's a real struggle communicating. I find it difficult. I feel like these guys must think I'm making this up, surely, to make more money, but it's just not true.
That is true. To what you're saying, like sometimes you come across things like, how am I going to explain this? It's like the other day when I was doing, we're doing a resto on a car. We pulled apart the engine and then there was asbestos in it. So then once it's asbestos in it, it changes the ball game completely, We need to get suits out. We need to dispose of it. We need to strip down our whole car now and do an inspection on the whole car to make sure there's no asbestos anywhere else in the car.
Yeah.
And you say that to someone, it's like, mate, you're taking a piss, right?
Yeah.
Like it turned in from doing one thing to now stripping the whole car now down to make sure there's no asbestos in it.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard. It's really hard. I think the only thing I can really do is just take a lot of photos. Most of the time I'll find things and I'm just like, I'll just gas it in. I'll just do it for free.
Yeah.
It's less trouble.
I know what that feels like, mate.
It's not a good business model, obviously, but what else do I do? Yeah. I enjoy the work, so I kind of just cop that on the chin.
Yeah. Do you invoice monthly?
I invoice every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, good.
And that gives me an opportunity to have a chat, see how they're going, try and keep that trust and that communication there. Because what little business experience I do have is that if that trust is gone, they're trusting me with these cars, which are very valuable. But I have to trust them as well because, my livelihood is in their hands. Yeah. If they blow a gasket and say, "Well, taking my car, it's cost too much money."
Yeah.
It's like it looks bad.
Yeah.
I look like a shark or something.
See, that's the thing with Australia as well. Our labour rate is very high, especially in Sydney. Not $55, you need to lift that up. But in Sydney, we struggle. If some of the shops that we use, they're $120, $150 an hour, and if they're putting 1,000 hours into a car, Think about how expensive that is to build a guard.
Yeah.
A car resto or rebody.
I think kind of getting murky waters here, but I think again, I haven't been in business very long, but I'm insured, and I've got just the right amount of insurance to cover me. Right, I don't have employees, but the broker is just like, "Oh, do you have any employees?" And if I had employees, the liability insurance is so expensive.
Yeah,
and
just jumps up.
It just jumps up by like I think it was like $2,200. So it although like an employee will make you money, but it actually costs money to put on an employee.
Of course,
I'm just on my own. I would love someone to come in and help. I can't hold their hand. I really need them to show initiative and just figure it out. But boy, oh boy, businesses with 20 or 30 employees, like hats off to them. I don't know how they do it.
So, I mean, let's just pause there, right? So you're a year in.
Yeah.
It's always it's a leap of faith setting up a business.
It is, yeah.
All right. So then it's what I've found talking to a lot of business owners in the past. It's also a leap of faith getting that second. I think every new employee that a business brings on, it's always a wee bit of a leap of faith. There is a tipping point.
Sure,
of course.
But that will come for you 100%. Because so we had a blacksmith on a few weeks ago, Matt Mewburn, and again he's been on a very similar journey to yourself, and he's 5 years into his shop at Everly Works, and he's got a nice rhythm going.
Yeah,
he's got
he's got a bit of time under his belt.
Got some time under his belt. So it does all come.
Yeah,
it's all going to be always very, very scary.
Yeah,
but that's where, and maybe this is where having your global community that you've kind of created, mate, just keep engaging, because I think you're speaking with your clients, which is great, but reach out to other people that have been in the trade and that have been in your shoes.
Yeah.
You did a great video for Business Australia, I think it was actually.
Yeah.
Those communities will help you learn the other stuff, the stuff that the stuff that isn't the reason you set up a business. The reason why you set up a business is to do what you love,
but just as important.
Yeah. So I think what I'm trying to say is give yourself time. It will always seem scary.
Yeah.
But there'll be a time, mate, let's get you back on in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Where you go, actually, I'm now a team of 10. got
and it's still just you two.
And it's still just us. We're still sitting here, bring some more beers.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Enjoy that journey, mate. Like it's everything's always seems scary. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks, mate.
And the plus side is no one's going to change your fucking radio station. You can always listen to whatever tunes you want. There's no one else there.
Yeah. And whatever calendar that you want up as well.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty of the tradie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, calendar. Too good. Yeah.
So your clients then, I'm intrigued by this because I saw on your Instagram you're working on some Porsche 356s, some Austin Healey's, MGs.
Yeah.
Are they your bread and butter?
Well, the bread and butter at the start were the nose panels.
Right.
That really helped me out. And there was a local guy restoring an international tractor, and he kind of just brought in panels and said, "Can you make this for me?" So that, I've only, it's going well, but it could have easily gone the other way. Like I've only just had enough work to get by the whole time. The Porsche was a great job to come in, which I did the restoration on that car at Nugent's. It was finished, and the owner decided that he wanted original interim bumpers made.
Yeah.
So it came back to me. But yeah, if that job didn't come in, I would have really been scraping around. It's only been just enough to, because with the jobs, they hit snags where you kind of have to sort things out, like buy parts, get tooling made, things like that. The MG's waiting on tooling to be made. Tooling like louver punch tooling. So you have a male and a female die, and you punch it into the aluminium bonnet, which creates the louvers. So there was a hole up on that. So I've just been waiting. You know, that's a bit of business inexperience on my behalf. Yeah, but you know, what can you do? Yeah.
Someone who's into restorations as well. Tell me, how much is tooling, or how much is working on the tools, and then how much is research? There's so much research, isn't there?
There is so much research, man.
Do you bill for that research?
No, I don't.
See, a lot of people do, eh?
Yeah, well, they should.
Yeah,
like
because it is time.
It is time.
Hundreds of hours sometimes.
Yeah, it is time. I think like I've set the business up of like being in Dubbo. I'm just in some there. I mean, I'm at the back of a freighting dock. So there's 4 sheds that I have that just used to be distribution holding garages. So all the kegs of beer have been moved out. So I'm just in there. So it's very cheap. So I'm trying to do my best for the clients to say, well, you know, I took my car to Robert. He's done a fantastic job. I can't just go out and just charge $1 squillion straight off the bat without any reputation. You know, blokes in Sydney, mate, you have to charge for research. You know, it's the thing with the interim bars. How do I write down on a piece of paper? Look, I spent 4 hours a night researching and trying to get in contact with owners in the States and doing video chats and patterning up original bumpers for you. It's just like I just wore that. Yeah. To get him a good job.
Yeah, but it is a part that's not talked about a lot, you know, the research and stuff. So
yeah, it's one good saying is you can't buy that at Woolworths.
Yeah.
You
that
can't,
is true.
You can't just go down to Woolworths and buy it.
No, you can't get that at Woolies, mate.
No. And yeah, like food is reasonably cheap. You can go in and buy, you know, cheap food for $200, but you know, an hourly rate for someone to work, you know, it's expensive.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
Yeah, it really,
especially when you're paying for a skill. Like you can't do it, so you pay for someone else to do it. You know, like you're coming to me because I know how to do the thing that you can't. That comes as a cost.
Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of the owners are great. I'm really lucky.
Yeah.
Because
they're car people just like you, mate.
Yeah, yeah, and if these people have to understand that if these guys weren't here doing it, where would you go?
Yeah,
you can't just go to like a smash shop and say, can you fix my car? It's it'd never be right.
So what's the process in going from looking at a photo to making a guard? Because some of these cars that you can't just get a copy of that car just to have a look at and go and just make up your template for it so you can get the contour of the guard or anything else like that.
No.
For cars that you might not ever see again, how do you make that guard for it? How does that look like? What's the process in it?
Well, I can run you through the interim bars that I did. So I had to pattern off the rear of the car, so you get the contour of the shape of the bumper bar. And the bumper bars have aluminium extrusion on the outside, or deco trims. So we found a bloke in Italy who had restored an original interim bar. And there's only
for Pre-A.
This is for a Pre-A, a July 1952 Porsche 356. There's only for the Porsche nerds, they would all know, but for everybody else, there was 400 Porsches made from July to September who had these US export bumpers on them. So obviously you can't go down to Woolworths and buy them.
Not Bunnings?
Not Bunnings either. So we found this guy in Italy who had restored them, and he had to make the extrusion, and he had some left over, and he told me that they were 61 mil. So from having that measurement of the deco trim, I could scale up from photographs. So, okay, so you see a photograph with the 60 mil, the deco trim, you know that's 61 mil, so you can kind of guess the rest. Yeah. Which is the best I could do until I had that video chat with a bloke called Trevor Gates in San Clemente, who gave me all the measurements, and I was like, oh, I'll have all the measurements now. So
how close were you?
I made up a whole rear jig, 118 mil, and they were 127 mil thick. So I was, 9 mil off. Yeah. So I was close, but I made the whole jig. It was wrong, so I just did it again. Yeah. But they're correct now.
Yeah, exactly right.
And
because I know someone who's got one pre-A that might want one.
an export trim. Interim bumper.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm well rehearsed, mate. I can. There's no one in Australia.
Knock them up in an hour now.
There's no one in Australia who knows more about these bumper bars than me. Yeah, it's been racking around my brain for about 2 months. Yeah. That's
a good saying though, to be able to say that. Good feeling to be able to say that. No one knows more about this in my country than me. On the bowls.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one example of how you create these cars. But you got to get that scale right, and you got to put the time in to create, patterns and yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. You, with MDF, you kind of sand it up, see if it looks right to the eye. It's a long process. If you have nothing, it's a really long process.
100%.
So you can use CAD. Like there's a whole heap of CAD companies out there who can get you started. But if you look at a car, all the contour, especially front ends where all the headlights go, you can't just make a jig with all the hammer forms of the headlights, mate. Like the best way forward is if you have an original panel, make a mold and create it all, and then you have all the information.
So where do you want to see your bodies? There's Pebble Beach, there's concours around the world. Where do you want to see one of your bodies?
I honestly don't care about concourse events at all.
Oh, controversial.
Yeah, it's not I mean, if a client wants that sort of restoration, we can accommodate it. But I would always advise, especially with original cars, you got to keep the authenticity of the car. Like, don't go over the top.
Yeah, don't over restore.
No. You got to. Yeah, the concourse cars. I've never been to. Yeah,
trailer
Monterey
princesses are.
Like that.
They're always a bit too much, eh?
Yeah. I mean, you can tell. I mean, if they're in an absolutely torn down state and they have to be rebuilt from scratch, then fine. But if you can save like all that authenticity, original spot world, the more you can save, I think, the better.
Yeah.
You want to keep it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's where the money is. Like guys who know what they're buying will stick their head under a car and be like, well, I know this has been in a shop.
Yeah.
So not too much paint, just a nice, like it came out.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the way that Porsche has been restored.
I agree. That's the way cars should be built as well.
Yeah.
You see the way they're built sometimes, the way when someone's restoring a car, they've just gone way too far.
Yeah. You gotta do your research of how. I mean, well, those Italian bodies, they were rough as.
Oh, so bad.
Just kind of stitch welded panels and stuff like that. You kind of want to keep it, even though everything in your brain's telling you got to fix this.
Yeah.
Like you gotta preserve that stuff so it doesn't look like you've touched it. It just looks like an original car.
Yeah. It's the romance to it as well, though.
Yeah, and I really think that will pull the money in years to come. Cars that are, original, and haven't been kind of touched up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're getting harder and harder to find, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not making any more of them.
Yeah, but I mean, Concours.
Can't get them at Woolies.
Don't want to sound too much like a, wanker, but Concours. I mean, the level of work that goes into them should be applauded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
definitely.
should. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, they're museum pieces after that. They're no longer cars.
yeah. They lose that bit of soul. I only say this because if you see an original car that's kind of hasn't been restored, is just kind of been maintained, it's so beautiful to see. It's so worth not if you have a car that's running and it's got a bit of rust here and there, you know, that's fine. But you want to keep it that way as long as you can. Engines are a bit different. I mean, if they stop running, you got to fix them. But with bodies, preserve as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, all of those little imperfections and everything as well, like dents and stuff like that, they're all stories.
For
You know,
sure.
when you see a brand new Concours car, well, and I say brand new, even though it might be, you know, an old classic car, but it's a Concours car that's just been built ground up, nut and bolt resto.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a brand new car now. It sort of loses that history that car had.
Yeah.
You know? So I do agree with that. And it's like, yeah, you know, like all of those little impurities and imperfections, they're the parts that make that car, that tell that story.
That's right. And there was Rod Emroy, who's who's a prominent 356 guy in California. He built it was a 1951 Porsche, which won Le Mans on its class, and he restored that car to what it looked like before it raced. So all the research went into what the car looked like just before it, or when it won Le Mans in 1951, and he restored the car, dents and all.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that one, I'm pretty sure that won Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
If it didn't win best car, it won its class. So that was, you know, there's something to be said for that.
Big time.
If the trend, like, it's obviously changing. So yeah, but the market will decide. Like blokes, if you're restoring a car, you know, do what you want to do. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, nice.
But yeah.
What's your dream project to work on? Like if the phone rang on Monday morning following this podcast,
yeah,
what would be the dream request that you would love to help with?
There's so many, but it would have to be, you know, an original Scuderia Ferrari, or a Grand Prix car.
Yeah.
Do you want to help him with the pronunciation?
Scuderia. No, I said it right.
Scuderia, yeah.
You said it right.
I'm just checking.
Yeah. Big fan of Ferrari.
Yeah.
But, you know, with cars, I've never had much of a relationship with Ferrari. So when you see one in a show, you kind of look at it and think, oh, well, that's a great car. But I have relationships with Austin Healey, so I'm more attached to them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Total.
Yeah.
Total.
So even though like you don't get to choose what car you love, you have a relationship with cars, for whatever reason, and you like.
Yeah. Same with me. For Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Yeah. And my dad, you know, loves Mustangs. I'm just like, well,
Yeah, my old man loves Monaros.
yeah. Like blokes, you know, you just get attached to a Pacific car for some reason. Yeah. But yeah, the Grand Prix cars that he built, pretty incredible.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it would be a very honourable thing to work on a project like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely a dream at this stage.
You did a lovely video for Business Australia.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
And there was something you said, which was that you're proud to begin at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you want to enjoy the small wins and moments of running a business.
Yeah.
What have some of those moments and wins been for you in the first 12 months?
Getting paid is such a good feeling. Yeah, it's so good. I love it. Just seeing all the work, all that hard work, you know, actually literally pay off is really good. And usually, you know, I'll down tools for half an hour and go have a beer, or, you know, go home and just have a cup of coffee and chat to Jade and just savor the moment. Yeah, like you got to do it. otherwise,
Why are you doing it?
yeah. If
So
you
do you
just,
have your name on the wall as well?
I have
of your bu-
I
of
have
your
like
business?
I have a tiny sticker on the front door, and someone has commented like, "You should get a bigger sign."
Yeah,
But
100%. Because then you can have, you sit back, whacking out a panel, you look up and you're like, how'd
Yeah.
that fuck me moment,
Yeah, I went through some old photographs of when I first moved in, which was just like everything was on the floor, and that was a bit of a teary moment. Like, I mean, I know everyone struggles with business; it is hard, but yeah, it's to have that feeling of like, yeah, I am actually making it. It's very, it's emotional. Yeah,
Yeah, I bet.
yeah.
Well, mate, enjoy the journey.
Thank you.
We'll be keeping an eye on you as well
Yeah,
on
cheers.
that side. I'm going to ask my question now, which I know you listen to our podcast, so you probably know what it's going to be. You got a table booked for 4 people. You can invite 3 guests. Who would they be and why?
Can I invite Hitler?
Yeah, of course. That'll be an interesting conversation.
That's a first.
We've had JC, now Hitler.
Yeah. No, I don't. I wouldn't. Obviously, I don't know about Hitler. He's an interesting character, but
I think that's a fascinating dinner guest.
Yeah,
you don't have to like the person that you're inviting to dinner.
yeah. I would probably invite Hitler, Martin Luther King Jr., and let's like see if anyone can convince them to go the other way.
Yeah. That's fucking great.
And my third guest, I don't know. I don't know. My serious answer would be my grandfather, my grandmother, and my daughter, so they could all meet. But Hitler would be a kind of novelty to me.
Yeah, it would be.
Sounds like we're booking
He
2
built-
tables for you, buddy.
He built some pretty amazing cars,
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. But I don't have any admiration for the man. I'll just put that out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think we needed a disclaimer there, but it's all good. Well, how can people get a hold of you? How can people find out more about you, Robert?
It's the best way is just robertsiemsen.com.au. Everything's there. You can, that'll send you to everywhere, every corner of the internet.
Beautiful.
Well,
Every corner.
Not every corner.
Yeah. I don't think everyone wants to get every corner.
No.
I do. No. Thank you very much for coming on, mate.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.